Welcome to On the Road with Riley. I'm Riley Mulherkar, and this week we are going to Portland, Oregon. I'm from the Northwest, so I'm so excited to go there, see how the community is doing, and speak with pianist, composer, and educator Darrell Grant. Darrell, how are you doing today?
Good, Riley. Good. Nice to see you. We're virtually.
It is awesome to see you virtually. That's, the wonderful thing about this show. I've gotten to connect with so many people outside the New York bubble, and
Yeah.
especially during this time, it feels like our whole country is going through something together.
Hmm.
So there's a lot in common, I think, with what we're experiencing. But at the same time, I think each community, there are a lot of things unique to each community. So
That's
tell me
true.
a little bit about how you're doing and how things are going in Portland right now.
Well, I'm doing fine. My family and I, thanks for asking. I think we're kind of lucky here in Portland. Um, we when the coronavirus hit Seattle so close to us, like we got a really early warning, and then it hit LA again before it hit us. So I feel like we're sort of maybe 4 weeks behind Washington and 2 weeks behind LA, California. So I think we got the benefit a lot of that in terms of closing down, and people staying safe. Um, and then so that was all helpful. And then the murder of George Floyd and everything just completely exploded, and we had protests every day, and riots and violence every night. I'm sure people all over the country saw the visuals from that, and it's still happening. I mean, there are still demonstrations and protests pretty much every day. And just the other night, a protester was injured by fire from federal officers. So it's there's that part of it. So on the personal level, it's really good to sort of feel like we're not impacted in the same way that other places are. But then on the macro level, it's like crisis everywhere.
Absolutely. Um, you know, and I think growing up in the Northwest, I've I grew up in Seattle, and I had to reckon with the fact that I think Seattle and the Northwest in general can so often be known as such a liberal place. Um, but the history of white supremacy in Washington and Oregon, I know
Mhm.
is quite intense. And there's a lot going on there, whether you're talking about hate groups, whether you're talking about police violence. So have you felt like Portland has had, or Oregon has been having a particularly unique reckoning in this moment with its history?
Well, I haven't been to other places, so it's really intense here in Portland because it is so lacking in diversity. And so, there are I think a lot of people are starting to have their eyes opened to things that they didn't know. I mean, for me, I've been exploring those things in my work for years and in my teaching for years. So it's really surprising to me sometimes the things that people who grew up here or live here actually still don't know, because it seems to me that that information is so prevalent. But yeah, I think there really has been a real reckoning. And I think one of the things that's interesting as an educator is that, as we move from acknowledgement of sort of white supremacy culture and to this sort of institutional recognition of systemic racism, and you know move towards anti-racism, it's an interesting opportunity for us in the arts and as educators to really look at the roots of this within our own institutions. So I'm having really rewarding conversations with my colleagues about, well, what does it mean to teach in a music school where to decenter whiteness in a conservatory or Western European music school. And so I feel like there's this window that seems to be still open for this idea of real systemic change. Now, whether or not we'll carry that through, I don't know, but I feel like there's some momentum towards changing some things at a base level, and that's pretty interesting.
Right, right. Well, speaking of your work, I know for all of us, whatever we were in the middle of just sort of got cut short. Uh,
Yeah.
Not a lot of people were casually in the middle of writing and producing an opera, which I know you were doing. So
I wasn't actually in the middle. I was at the end. I
okay.
mean, we were 2 weeks from rehearsal.
Well, that's heartbreaking in its own way. So tell me first about the opera, because I don't know a lot about your process with it, and also, where are things at now with
Oh yeah. Well, I was commissioned in, I guess it was back in 2018 by a new music organization here called Third Angle New Music, to write a jazz chamber opera. And we had a whole almost year-long process of dialogue and exploration. And I decided that I really wanted to take on some of this idea of gentrification, because in Portland, I mean, it is one of the most gentrified cities in America. And so the opera is called Sanctuaries, and it's about a 75-minute jazz chamber opera for 4 vocalists and 8 instrumentalists that deals with this sort of history of gentrification and displacement of the historic Black community here in Portland. There's a community called Albina, which was historically a Black community, not by choice, but because of, housing policy and redlining and all kinds of other discrimination. And then over the past, 3 or 4 decades, that community, which was majority Black, has sort of dissipated and dispersed because of displacement. So really looking at that through the lens of the African American experience was something that I felt like was really worthy of an opera. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot.
Well, it's beautiful, and I can't wait to hear it when it comes to fruition. But since then, I mean, you certainly, I know you from the world of jazz, and also all the leadership you take at Chamber Music America, and we often see each other at the conference in New York each year. And I know you're always up to things, you're always doing things. So what are some of the things you've been doing in lieu of presenting the opera as was planned over the past
Mm.
months? Where has your mind been? How has your work changed, and what have you been focusing on?
Lately, I've really been thinking a lot about legacy. I mean, I have a 15-year-old son. My father is 84, and everyone's healthy. But I'm also thinking about this. We're so focused on this moment in ourselves and what's happening to us, and I feel like we also need to be thinking about the future. We also need to be sort of not only doing things to advocate and change the situation now, but keep one eye towards the next generation and sort of making sure that they have what they need, despite what we might be going through now. So those kind of things are happening. So I'm going to be putting out a video and a song about that.
Exciting. Well,
Yeah.
we'll all keep our eye out for that. And speaking of your songs, I wonder if we could play a tune today. One of the nice things about this format, is that you and I don't often, or I don't know if we've ever really gotten to play together.
Maybe sitting in at a at a concert one time, but yeah.
But now here we
Yeah.
are, and we can play some together. So, is there any tune that has been on your mind or has been resonating with you lately that we could dive into?
Well, yeah, I was sort of thinking about this idea of legacy and how much I'm carrying on from my father, and how much I'm trying to pass on to my son as he's sort of coming of age in this time. And I wrote a song years and years ago, always intended to record it, never quite did it. And a few years ago, my dad turned 80, and I decided that I would finish it up and play it for him. So I'd love to do that song in honor of our fathers, and in honor of what we're trying to do to carry on their legacy. So it's called Waltz for Dad. So you want to play that?
Okay. Waltz for Dad by Darrell Grant. Darrell, thank you so much for hanging out with us, chatting with us, letting us know what's going on with you and in Portland. And here we go. Waltz for Dad by Darrell Grant.